Welcome to the second day of MIX. I'm really happy to see so many of you here, given how early it is in the morning. We've all heard about Web 2.0, and that means different things to different people. What it means to me is that services are getting really sophisticated, and users are expecting more from their services. If you were to take your service snapshot right now, and then 3 years ago, it's a whole new breed. There's more interaction, better performance, sharing functionality. So what's the browser doing about making it easy for users to get to your service? We really haven't changed the way users get to your service in the last 3 years. So what I want to do is show you how IE paves that road to make it easy for users to access your service. I'm Jane Kim. I'm a program manager with the Internet Explorer team and working on activities and web slices. So as all of you know, users are on the web more than ever before. And we're also finding that users are transitioning from client applications over to web applications, web, email, and map being perfect examples of those. And also, the content on the web is more important to the user, especially with user-created content and social networking sites. For example, how devastating would it be if Facebook or Flickr or MySpace or Twitter was down for just a couple of hours a day? And I don't know what teenagers would do without MySpace. We've also heard that it's really hard to create client-side code, maintain it, and deploy it. So with more services and more user-created content, who's doing all of that integration? So IE has two key features to address these issues. One, activities, where I can access a service from any web page. And then secondly, web slices, where I can get the most important information available directly in my browser and see when there are updates available. And best of all, it doesn't require any client-side code. They're easy to build. I want to give you a little bit of background as to how we designed these features. So we heard from web developers that they really appreciated simple solutions that solved a common user pattern. An example of this is search. Users were primarily browsing the web through search. OpenSearch is a technology that allowed web developers to enable their search functionality directly into the browser. Feeds is another example of this. Users had so many different sites to go and navigate to see if there were updates. RSS feeds was a way that users can easily consume lots of different sites and know when things have changed. So in both the search and the feed scenario, these are things that are really relevant to the user and also didn't require the web to change. That's what we're doing with activities and web slices today. We're solving something that's relevant for users and it's easy for web developers to enable. So the first part of the session, we're going to talk about activities, and then next, web slices, and we should have about 15 to 30 minutes for a Q&A. So activities are a way that you can access your service from any site. And let's start off with a demo. This is my first time in Vegas, and I also have an expense account, so I'm going to make the best of this day, or the best of my time here. This happens to be a blog that recommends lots of different restaurants in Vegas. And today, we all know how to copy, navigate, and paste to map out an address. But for someone like my mom, who doesn't know all the shortcut keys, it's kind of painful. It's like driving on a dirt road. So I'm going to just painfully walk you through what my mom would experience. So she makes a selection, and then she doesn't know the Control-C copy functionality, so she's going to go and hunt for the copy menu. And then she opens up a new tab, and she has to remember, gosh, what's that mapping service that I always use? So she's fumbling around, typing it in. Then she sees the text box, enters that copied text, and then finally gets the map. And now that she realizes it's pretty close, she closes it and returns back. So we find this pattern a lot, and what we think we can do better is make it easy for users to access those services that they use all the time. So just like my mom going and selecting this address, now she sees that there's a button available. This is the activity button letting her know that there are services available. This is a list of the installed activities that she has, and Map with Live Maps being one of them. And now she's instantly able to see where that map is. She can even interact with this content. And what this window is doing is just an HTML file that happens to be rendered in a 320 by 240 area. She can pan around and realizes that, okay, the Venetian is just north of this restaurant. And also click on links, which will open it up in a full page where she can further consume the service. So I'm going to show you some other examples of how you might want to use activities for lookup scenarios. I'm not so great at French, so I don't know what this is. Another type of activity is being able to translate in place. So l'atelier could actually be, let's see, I think this is going to be French, so English to French. Oh, sorry, French to English, really. See, this is how bad my French is. The workshop. Okay, so the workshop of Joel Robuchon. Who is Joel Robuchon? So let's see if there are any related articles for him. And I can see that through MSNBC activity, they promote some of the top news articles written up about Joel Robuchon, and one of them being that it's Vegas's top ranked hotels and restaurants and 10 most expensive restaurants in Vegas. Sold, I'm there. Okay, and another one is Medium. And this is a really impressive story. So Medium is a way that you can discover other related sites from your friends and other people in the community. And what's so impressive about this service is that we drop them bits of IE8 on Thursday, and Tuesday I met Tobias from Medium, and he already had a working activity and web slices available in just 5 days. So here, this is sort of a social graph of all of the different restaurants, websites that I might be interested in. Cool, so now I want to share this out with my friends so that other friends here in Vegas can join me at this restaurant or look up other restaurants in this page. So just like how I would go and copy this URL, log into Facebook or log into Hotmail and type in this URL, activities make this easier. We've integrated the page level activities, which are things that work off of the URL of the current page, into the page menu. So clicking on Share on Facebook opens up a new tab, passes that URL that I was currently on, tastingmenu.com, into Facebook, and then Facebook has a service which pulls up relevant information from that page. And so now I can, add a quick comment to my friend saying, come join me, and post it and share it on my Facebook profile. Now, how would someone go about creating one of these activities? In the next part of the session, I'm going to show you how to build one of these XML files. In this case, it's just a very simple way of describing to the browser how to interface with your service. So here's the name of the activity, and notice the URLs that we're using. And this is how IE communicates with Facebook. Now, I might want to be able to add more activities. I can do that through the Microsoft Service Guide, which I can access directly from the browser. And it goes and lists all of the top services that we have available. And just for fun, let's go and install one. And notice that just clicking on the link, I can easily add it and make it my default for this type of activity. But another way, and I think a lot more compelling way, is to enable adding services directly from your website. So for example, I could be on the map service playing around in here, and I see that there is an install button for IE. And clicking on it allows me to add that service. Now in this specific scenario, I already have Map with Live Maps installed, so that's why it's going and saying, hey, do you want to replace this? This is really important because if you end up changing your activity with new functionality, you're going to want to encourage your users to go and replace a provider so that they get the latest information. So I showed you how painful it is for someone like my mom to go and access these services, and how with IE8 activities you can now smoothly access your service, preview things in line, and go and execute. So this top flow is the user flow, and below I'm going to show you what IE is doing along the way. So when a user installs an activity, we're taking that XML file that goes and describes all that functionality of how the browser interfaces with the service and installs it part of the local machine. And so then whenever a user makes a selection, we're going and serializing that content. And then when they select the activity, the URL is described in that XML description. We fill it in with the serialized content to create the navigation URLs for HTTP GET and HTTP POST. So then when the user's previewing that activity, we're going and making an HTTP request, getting that HTML back, and rendering it in that window. Same thing for execute. When the user clicks on your activity, we're going and making the HTTP request, and then opening those results up in a new tab. There are four main components to an activity. Context is what the activity acts on. So I showed you in the demo that there are a set of activities available on selection, like the map, and then there are activities available for the current page, like share on Facebook. There's an additional one, which is links, where if I right-click on a link, I can get all the activities related for that. Some examples might be add to Delicious or show me a thumbnail of this page. And it's possible to have your activity work on all three different context types. So an example is email. I might want to be able to make a selection and send that over an email, or email the current URL, or email a link that I found within a page. Categories are a way to describe what your activity does. And this is displayed to the user in the top tier form. Each category can have a default, and it's the user that gets to define what that default is. IE goes and ships with a set of categories, but it's possible for you to go and create your own category. But what I want you to keep in mind is that think about what the user is experiencing. So for example, if you're a mapping service, then you really should consider using the map category so that users can quickly find your information. What we've done here is in the main activity menu, we list all the defaults for each of the categories. So I have definewithdictionary.com and map with live maps. But then in my all menu, or all activity menu, I see all of my activities grouped by functionality. So I can see that define with dictionary.com and define with Encarta. And it just so happens that define with dictionary.com is my default. Another thing that IE does is we auto-convert your search providers into activities. So my default search provider happens to be search with live maps, or sorry, search with live search. But then I have a set of other search providers that I have installed using Wikipedia or Yahoo or Technorati. So if you happen to be a search provider, just enabling open search will auto-convert your search into an activity. Preview is the way in which IE knows how to go and render your content in that preview window. It's a 320 by 240 dimension. And how this is done is a URL template. Same thing with execute. What is the URL template that IE needs to use to go and invoke your activity? So let's build one of these things together. I'm going to build a map activity. And I have this dinky web page that goes and has an add button. And this is what I'm going to do to constantly install my activity to make sure it works. This is the HTML to that web page. And notice I'm using the add service API and pointing to the XML file. This is the XML file that we're going to build up together. And that happens to be located right here. So the display name of my activity is going to be live, or map with live maps. So display. The convention that we're using for naming is to start with a verb and then followed by the provider name. Next is a homepage URL. Think of the homepage URL as the main entry point into your site. IE uses this in 3 ways. 1, we expose the homepage URL in the management experience so that users know, oh, where is this activity coming from? What does this do? Secondly, we use it as the identifier for this activity, that and in combination with the category. And lastly, we compare the domain of the homepage URL to the domains of the URL templates that we use for preview and execute. In this case, my homepage URL is maps.live.com. Now I need to define what my category is. And since this is a map service and people have already gone and created map activities, I should really call mine map. And now I need to define what my activity is going to act on. Since I want my activity to appear when the user makes a selection on the page, I'm going to have the context set to selection. Okay, now I need to go and find that URL template for execute. And I'm just going to sort of hunt around here. I'm going to go to maps.live.com and copy this address and try to find a way to figure out what the URL template is to pass to live maps. Now, looking at it here, the address bar, it doesn't look very friendly to me. I don't know how to send content over to live maps. But I do know that they have this share functionality. And when I click on it, sorry, I didn't realize I didn't have Outlook running. Oh, here it is. When I click on it, I can see in the URL the address that I copied and pasted in. So specifically, this is the address that I copied, the Las Vegas Boulevard South. So this is what I can use for my URL template for execute. I'm going to copy this URL. And then paste it into here. So I'm using execute action equals. By default, IE goes and does an HTTP GET request, but you can also specify supporting HTTP post just through method equals post. Okay, so in this case, if the user goes and clicks on it, regardless of what they've selected, it's always going to send it to Las Vegas Boulevard, and I don't want to do that. So I want to be able to pass in the user selection over to the service. IE supports several properties in the document that you have access to, selection being one of them. So instead of this address, I'm going to type in selection, and I have it enclosed in squiggly brackets. That's how IE knows that, okay, this is information that you want from the document. Also, there seems to be some other parameters that aren't necessary, so I'm going to remove them. Great. Save the XML file, and let's try this out. I'm going to refresh this HTML page. Okay, something's invalid. Ah, thank you. Great. So now I can properly install it. And if I select this and go and click on it, it goes and launches maps.live.com mapped out properly. Cool. So now we've just defined the execute method, but I really want to create that preview window next to it. I know that Virtual Earth has this web page where you can go and add this web page directly into your, or add this map directly into your own web page. So I'm going to fiddle around with it and see if we can repurpose this for a preview. Looking at this, this seems to be mapping out Seattle, and in the URL, I can see the Seattle text there. So I can replace that with selection. Also, the preview window for an activity is 320 by 240, and this seems to be too big, so let's adjust that. Looking at the parameter, they have W, so I'm guessing that that's width, height, 240. Cool, and let's see if that updates. Okay, so now I'm going to copy this URL and paste it into my XML file. So one thing I don't want to do is go and have to encode all of these ampersands. So another way that you can define your parameters within activity is through name-value pairs. And this is very similar to HTTP form submission. And it looks like there are about 5 parameters, so I'm going to copy this 5 times and start filling this in. And if you want to know that this activity is coming from IE, what you can do is also have a parameter where it tells you that it's coming from IE. Okay. Okay. Let's try this out. Refresh the page. Yay, it's valid XML. And now I've successfully installed it. And now I'm getting that preview. So that's really easy to build. And notice that we didn't really have to change anything with live maps to get this functionality to work. So So we just walked through how to create an open service format description file for live maps. And I also showed you how you can use the Add Service button to enable it directly in your web page so that you can encourage users to install it. You can also check if that activity is already installed by using the Is Service Installed API. So activities are just a really easy way for users to access your service from any web page. And what I want you to do is think about how you can drive users to using activities and getting easy access to your service. And I highly encourage you to think about how to use preview, where the preview is really a trailer to your service. Okay, the next part of my talk is web slices. And this is a way that users can subscribe to a specific portion of a page and get those updates directly in their browser. Let's walk through a demo of eBay. How many of you guys have tried out the eBay web slice? Okay, perfect. So we'll see it again here. So this is a prototype page that eBay put together for IE8. And it's available so that you can go and play around with it too. Now, I happen to be an eBay addict, and I love collecting Swatch watches. So I'm going to go and see what sort of results are available for Swatch watches on eBay. Now, eBay has gone and implemented web slices on each of their items. So as I'm looking at this query results of Swatch watches, notice that purple button that's appearing. That's the web slice button, letting the user know that you can subscribe to it. So this one looks pretty cool. Clicking on it asks the user, hey, do you want to subscribe to this? And when the user says yes, watch this top area. We've now added the Swatch watch item directly to the favorites bar and even gleamed to let the user know, hey, I just added something new. That means that wherever I am on the web, I have access to what my current bid on Swatch watch is. And IE in the background is going and getting updates to this, and if they find any changes, it's going to bold to let the user know that, hey, there's something new available. Some other examples of web slices could be a social network where you want to know what other people are up to. This is a Facebook one. Another one is what StumbleUpon built to show you the latest videos and websites available. You can also add feeds to your favorites bar. So this is one for New York Times most emailed articles. And I can click on it to go and open that article directly, or open all of them in the IE feed view. And this is my personal favorite one, because I love eBay so much that I want to monitor lots of different things on my favorites bar. And instead of having them go into overflow, I can start organizing them in folders. I have an auction folder with 3 eBay items here. And notice that the auction folder is bolded because the items in that folder are bolded. So really, in just one glance, I can see all the updates available on my favorites bar. Web slices are enabled just through simple HTML annotations directly on the web page. So in this example, we've added three class attributes: hslice, entry title, and entry content. And now you've made your content subscribable. That means that users can add it to their favorites bar. We've revamped the favorites bar. Think of it as the improved links bar, where you can add links, folders, web slices, and feeds. And at the top level, users know the status of their content. We bold on update, and we show italicized when an item is about to expire, and then gray it out when the item is fully expired, letting the user know, hey, this information probably isn't relevant anymore. And when a user clicks on a website on the favorites bar, it displays a flyout. And in that flyout is the HTML content extracted from that original web page. Specifically, it's using the outer HTML of the entry content element. So next, I'm going to show you how you can create a website and what IE is doing in the background. So websites really behave like feeds. Users get updates. It's going on a regular basis. So we also wanted to make it really easy for publishers and web developers to enable websites on their current web pages. So we took a look at microformats. Microformats are a set of data formats that you can apply directly to the web page. And the HATM microformat specifically describes feeds and feed items. So we thought that this was a really good start. One problem that we found, though, is that sites were already using the HATM microformat for old blog posts and news articles. And we didn't want an experience where my mother, reading a blog post that happens to be dated 2 years ago, getting that subscribe button on each blog post entry. So what we've done is added additional properties so that publishers and web developers can tell us directly, hey, this content is meant to be dynamic, and it's meant for users to subscribe to it. That's what we've done with HSlice. And we've added additional information like the end time. Hey, when is this content about to expire? And other subscription functionalities that we'll talk about a little bit later. So let me show you how you can enable a website, perhaps on your blog. So this is a blog that I have. And notice that the feed button is already displayed. Users have a way, whoops, sorry, wrong one. Users have a way of already subscribing to my blog. And the RSS feed maps to all of the blog entries that I have available. But what users don't have access to right now is to subscribe to this module over here, the travel pics. So I'm going to mark this up as a website. This is the HTML to my blog. And this is the area for the website. So here I'm going to add the HSlice class attribute. And notice that I already have a class attribute here, pictures. I can just add to it. And IE will find all of the right ones. I also have to add an ID to the HSlice. And this is because there could be multiple web slices found on a page, and IE needs to know exactly which one that you want to subscribe to. I want the title of my website to be travel pics. So I'm going to add class equals entry title. And when the user clicks on the website, I want them to see both the picture and the caption. So this is the area this is the HTML that I want to have rendered. So I'm going to add entry content. On the containing element. OK, so now I've saved this. Let's go back to my web page and refresh. Now notice when I hover over into the websites area, the websites icon appears. And also, we've integrated it with the feed discovery button so that users have one place to see all the things that they can subscribe to on the page. They don't have to go and hunt in the page to find them. So let me add this to my favorites bar. And notice it gets added, bolded, and wherever I am on the web, I can still access my travel pictures. IE in the background is going and using the Windows Feeds platform to subscribe to this web slice. The Windows Feeds platform is something that we shipped in IE7 that allows all applications on the system to access the user's feed subscription. What we've done is added built-in support for web slices, and those are the ones in dark orange. So now IE, on a scheduled basis, will go and download the HTML file for a web slice, extract out that web slice on the HTML, and convert it over into an Atom feed. And then at this point, it's treated just like any other feed. It's parsed. And specifically, we go and remove any script found so that there is no cross-site scripting attacks, and import some basic styling. Imported style sheets, style box defined in the head element, and then styles applied directly into the web slice. Now, when IE is going and rendering that content, we're rendering the entry content element, and also we create a body element around entry content. So only styles that are applicable to the body and entry content are going to be picked up in the flyout. So once we've parsed it and imported the appropriate styles, we then compare what the user has locally to see if there's any difference. For example, if the price went up. And if so, then we mark that feed as new or updated, and that is what triggers that bolding on the favorites bar. So let me show you what that experience is, or let me show you what the feed that IE generates for that web slice that we just created. So IE has built-in feed reading support, and not only do I have access to all my feeds, I also have access to my web slices here too. And this is the web slice that we've created for travel pics. And if I look at the XML, we've converted the web slice item over to a feed. And this is the section that we are going and importing the styles. So notice that I've imported the style sheet, blog, CSS, and other styles applied directly in the head element. And for that feed item, we have the link to the site, and then also the title, travel pics, here. And then the entry content HTML is stuffed into the description element of that feed item. So you might be worried that IE is going in the background and subscribing to your web page. So we allow you two different ways to manage this. By default, IE sets the schedule to once a day. And the user has the ability to increase this to 15 minutes a day. So this could potentially bring down your site. One way that you can tell the browser to respect your site settings is to set a TTL value. This is a time to live value, and what IE will do is take your time to live value if it happens to be higher than what the user specified. So in this example, if eBay wants to say, okay, you know what, I can only handle requests up to every hour, and the user has it set to 15 minutes to subscribe, or 15 minutes to update all of their feeds and web slices, IE will go and respect the 60 minutes that eBay has set on their web slice. Alternatively, if you have really rich content on your web page and only a small portion of it is a web slice, what you can, instead of IE going and downloading that entire web page just to get that little web slice, you can point us to another place to go and get the updates for the web slice. And that's done through a single item feed. So directly in your web slice, what you would do is annotate feed URL to that section, and provide us a link to the feed that we should go and subscribe to. Some websites might be time sensitive. eBay being an example, flight delays are another, or flight arrival and times. Okay. So what we do is we've added an additional website's property that you can go and specify what that end time is. IE then knows that, okay, if it's going to be ending in 5 minutes, we're going to let the user know that this content is expiring, and that's done through the italicized text. And then once it's expired, we gray out that text to the user, and then we've also turned off the background download for that website. So next, let's go and mark up one for eBay and insert an end time for that. So this is the websites that we're going to annotate. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to play with Rock Band out in the hall here. So this is the auction item, and just like before, we're going to go and add the website's annotation. So this is going to be the H-slice region, and I want the title of this to be Rock Band. And I want this table to be entry content, because this is a table that displays the image and the price. Okay, now let's just double check to make sure that it works. Refresh this page. I get the website's icon, and I can add that to my favorites bar. Terrific. Well, in this specific case, though, maybe what the user wants to see is not just the title, but also the price on the top level. So you can add entry title to multiple different elements in the website. So I'm going to go and look for the current price here. It's $132. And I'm going to add to this the entry title again. And then refresh this. And notice now I'm pulling the title from 2 different sources. IE is just going and concatenating multiple different instances of the entry title to just one title. Okay, now let's add the end time. So this happens to be the time in which my item will expire. And notice that I have a friendly date, but really the date that I want to specify to IE is the ISO 1806 or 1801 format. So here on this element, I'm going and adding the class end time. Let's refresh this. Okay, so I don't see anything changing because the end time is a couple hours from now. So let's go and modify the end time so that it would expire pretty soon. So I've changed the time to 9:20. And then refresh this website. Oh, maybe I got the time wrong. This should be 17? No, it is. Oh, wait, hold on. I see. I messed up. 09. And then here is the 20 that I want to add. Okay, thank you. Huh, still not working. Yeah, the Pacific time, I could do the 8-hour delay. Right. So that should work. Maybe it's just not.
It's not 19 minutes yet. Right. It's 18 minutes. We're not Pacific time.
Okay, this is very odd.
Change 19 to 18.
This? Well, this is the minutes, right? Huh.
Your date is wrong.
Let's see, March 3rd. Well, I did change it to the 3rd just to make sure that it expires. Okay, well, actually, it does show that it's expired. I think what's happening is that there's a bug with the top level UI not being updated. But so in this case, I can see that it's expired with a red adornment around it saying that it expired yesterday. Okay, so it works correctly. It's just there's a bug on the top level UI. Thank you for your help. Okay, and another way that you can go and control the experience of a web slice is to be able to turn off the web slice on hover behavior directly on your web page. And the reason why you might want to do this is because if you already have on hover behaviors on your web page, then having IE's on hover behavior and your on hover behavior could be pretty distracting. So you can add a meta tag at the top level. And then also, you might want to make it really obvious to users that you have a web slice. So you can create a big button that says, go and add this web slice. And that's through our Add to Favorites bar API. Let's go and try that out. So I'm going to go and add the button to the bottom of my page. And now I go and specify the URL to my web slice. So it's going to be this URL, and then the ID, which is 1, #1. The title of my web slice, it's going to be Rock Band. And then say that it's a slice. This is because you can use this API for links and feeds as well. Okay, save that, and let's refresh this web page. And now I have the button. I'm going to remove the one that I have up top. And so now when a user goes and clicks on it, more problems, hold on. Okay, now I can properly add it, thank you, to my favorites bar. And just like feeds, web slices, by enabling it on your web page, is making it available for other applications to go and access your content. So if the content that you want to enable as a web slice happens to be personal or private, you might want to specify some authentication to that. The Windows Feeds platform supports 2 ways to do this. One is through persistent cookies, another is through HTTP-based auth. Now, the experience for HTTP-based auth is when the user subscribes to your web slice, the user will still have to go and specify a username and password as part of the web slice dialog. Now what I want to do is walk you through some examples of where you would want to use feeds versus where you would want to use web slices. Feeds today are great for lists of content, like it's a log, and it shows you whenever something new has been added to that list. And the end user experience is typically a long list of titles that they can quickly scan and see which ones that they are interested in. Web slices, on the other hand, are specific portions of a web page, and you want to show that specific portion to the web page to the user. So the user experience around it is that they get that rich preview with links and images directly in there. So this is a CNN site. And if you notice, the main part where it lists all of the latest news, that should be a feed. Whereas rich content that is interesting, for example, the snow plummets northeast, that could be a website so that users get that image and the captions. Another example is Facebook, where they already have a news feed available, but all of the different modules on the side, those might be websites. For a blog, feeds are already used for being able to access individual blog entries. But for the gadgets that you have on the side, like your latest Twitter, the latest books that you're reading, or the latest photos that you have, those could be websites. And then users can pick and choose which portion of the blog that they want to subscribe to. And eBay, where I might want a feed to know whenever a new Swatch watch happens to enter into the eBay database. But once I've got my heart set on a specific eBay item, then I want to know when that item changes. So I can use that as a website. So websites are really easy to do. You don't have to go and change your site in order to support it. And it's a way that creates permanent presence of your site to the user because it's always available on the favorites bar. And both activities and websites allow users to connect to your service directly and when it's relevant too. It solves a common user pattern and it's relevant to users' everyday browsing experience, and they're both designed to work with services today. So that's it. And if you have any questions, please use the microphones. I think we have about 20 minutes.
Yeah, hi. So, the question is whether the web slices are always integrated within the website itself, or is it possible to kind of direct to an external website? So, for instance, if I have a big website, then IE always loads the whole big website and extracts only the web slice. So is there some way to provide an external web slice?
Yes, that's using that feed URL property that we described, where you can go and say, okay, for this website subscription, go and use this external feed URL.
Okay, thanks.
And if you can, also fill out the rating so that it gets recorded. And I think the session title is T21. Thank you.
Where can we find the documentation for the markup stuff so we know what kind of tags and stuff we can use?
Yes, we have this published on Microsoft.com. It's the readiness toolkit that you're going to be using. I think you can just go to Microsoft.com and search for IE8 white papers. And also, I'm going to be following up with a blog post on the IE blog that has all the links to the documentation, if you want to wait for that.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Is there plans to move the web slices into the widgets framework in Vista?
That's an interesting question. We think of these web slices more like feeds than really gadgets, but I could see a way in which those two could merge together. But we don't have any plans for that right now. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today and helping me through my code snippets.